My son David didn't even say hello when he walked through the front door. He just walked right past me, pulling a metal tape measure out of his pocket. He marched straight into my home office, the room where I had spent 30 years, balancing ledgers and managing accounts, and started measuring the wall space. Perfect, he muttered to himself, ignoring the fact that I was standing right there, holding a tray of freshly baked muffins. Rick's gaming setup will fit right here against the north wall. We'll have to rip out these built-in bookshelves though. They're dated. Rick, my daughter-in-law's 30-year-old brother, a man who had been finding himself on his parents' couch for the last decade. And now apparently he was going to find himself in my house. I'm glad you're here to listen to this. If you are watching this, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you are listening from. I read every single one. I want to know how far this story of boundaries reaches. My name is Evelyn. I am 68 years old, a retired forensic accountant. For 40 years I made a living finding the truth hidden in the numbers. I learned very early on that numbers don't lie, but people do. People lie to themselves and they lie to the ones they claim to love. And that Tuesday afternoon, standing in the hallway of the 4-bedroom colonial I had bought with my own hard-earned money, I realized my son was lying to himself if he thought I was going to let this happen. David, I said, keeping my voice level, it's a trick I learned in my profession. The quieter you are, the more people lean in to listen. What are you doing? He turned around looking surprised that I was even there. As if I were a piece of furniture that had suddenly learned to speak. Oh hey Mom, Jessica and I have made a decision. We're moving in on the 1st of the month. The lease on our apartment is up and frankly it's too small. Plus Jessica's mom is sick of Rick crashing in their basement. So he's coming with us. We need the space. He said it so casually. We need the space. As if my home, my sanctuary, was a public storage unit waiting to be filled with his chaos. You're moving in, I repeated, testing the weight of the words. And Rick is coming too. Yeah, David said, retracting the tape measure with a sharp snap. Look, it's just logical. You're rattling around in this big old house all by yourself. It's a waste of assets. We've figured it all out. Jessica and I will take the master suite, obviously. The kids will take the 2 guest rooms. Rick needs this office because it has the best Wi-Fi signal for his streaming. And where I asked, feeling a cold knot tighten in my stomach, do you propose I live? David waved a hand dismissively toward the stairs leading down. The finished basement. It's got that little kitchenette and the half bath. It's perfect for you. Less stairs to climb, right? We're doing you a favor, really. At your age you shouldn't be managing a whole house. Jessica will take over the kitchen duties so you won't even have to cook. I looked at him, my son, the boy I had put through college, the man whose down payment I had provided for his first car. He was standing there, telling me I was being evicted from my own life. To live in the cellar like an unwanted tenant. I see, I said. And did you ask me if I wanted to live in the basement? He rolled his eyes. Mom, don't be difficult. It's already decided. The movers are booked for Sunday. You have 3 days to clear your stuff out of the master in this office. Anything you don't need, just trash it or donate it. We need the space for our things. He walked out, then phoned to his ear, probably calling Jessica to tell her the good news. He didn't eat a muffin. He didn't ask how I was. He treated me like a liability he was trying to write off. But what David forgot is that I spent my life analyzing risk. And he had just become a major liability. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I simply went into the kitchen, poured myself a cup of tea, and sat down at the table. My mind was racing, calculating. This wasn't just about space. This was a hostile takeover. Later that afternoon Jessica came over. She didn't knock either. She had a key I had given her for emergencies, not for invasions. She walked in with her mother Linda. Linda was a woman who always looked like she was smelling something unpleasant. She walked around my living room touching my curtains, my vases, my furniture with a critical eye. These drapes will have to go, Linda said, loud enough for me to hear from the kitchen. They're too heavy, we need something lighter, more modern. And that sofa, it smells like old lady. I know, Mom, Jessica replied, her voice drifting down the hall, but don't worry. Once we're settled we'll do a full purge. We can sell most of this antique junk on Marketplace and use the money to redecorate. I stood in the shadow of the kitchen doorway unseen. They thought I was downstairs in the laundry room. And what about Evelyn? Linda asked. Is she going to be a problem? Jessica let out a laugh that chilled my blood. Oh please, she'll do whatever David says. She's obsessed with him. Besides, once we move in, I told David we should take her car keys away. She's getting older, she doesn't need to be driving. It's dangerous. Plus, if she's stuck here, she can watch the kids full-time while I go back to work. It's like having a free live-in nanny. A free live-in nanny, without a car. Confined to the basement. They weren't planning to live with me. They were planning to imprison me. They were planning to strip me of my independence, my assets, and my dignity. They viewed me as a resource to be consumed until there was nothing left. I quietly backed out of the kitchen and went out the back door into the garden. I needed air. I needed to think. My heart was pounding but my head was clearing. The shock was fading, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. I looked at my house. I had bought this place 20 years ago after my divorce. It was my symbol of independence. I had paid off the mortgage 5 years early. It was a prime piece of real estate in a neighborhood that was rapidly gentrifying. Developers had been sending me letters for months offering cash for homes. I had always thrown them in the trash, until today. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. I still had the contact information for a Mr. Henderson, a developer who had been particularly persistent. I dialed the number. Mr. Henderson, I said when he answered. This is Evelyn Vance. You sent me a letter last week about my property on Elm Street. Mrs. Vance. His voice was eager. Yes, I remember. Have you reconsidered our offer? I have, I said, but I have conditions. I need a quick close, an immediate close, cash. We can do that, he said. We're mainly interested in the land value. We're planning to rezone that corner for multi-unit luxury townhomes. The structure itself, well, we'd be tearing it down anyway. Tearing it down, my beautiful colonial, my garden, my office. A pang of sadness hit me, but then I remembered David's tape measure. I remembered Jessica's voice saying take her car keys away. I remembered Rick, the 30-year-old gamer who was going to inhabit my workspace. If I kept the house, I lost my life. If I sold the house, I lost the structure, but I kept my freedom. It was a simple balance sheet equation. How fast can you close? I asked. If the title is clear, we can have the money in your account by Friday morning. We'll waive the inspection, Henderson said. He wanted that land bad. Done, I said. But I need occupancy until Sunday morning. That works for us. We wouldn't send the demolition crew until Monday anyway. Perfect, I said. Draw up the papers. Step 1 was complete. Now I needed a place to go. And not just any place. I needed a fortress. A place where David, Jessica, and the freeloading brother-in-law couldn't follow. I got in my car while I still had the keys and drove 20 miles north to Azure Horizons. It was a new exclusive gated community I had seen advertised. It was marketed as luxury living for the 55-plus active adult. The gates were imposing iron, manned by a security guard who looked like he used to be a Marine. I pulled up to the sales office. The sales director, a lovely woman named Sarah, showed me around. It was paradise. Pickleball courts, a heated saltwater pool, a clubhouse with a library. The condos were modern, secure, and quiet. But what I was most interested in were the bylaws. Tell me about the guest policy, I asked Sarah as we stood on the balcony of a second-floor unit overlooking the lake. We are very strict, Sarah said with a smile. This is a quiet community. No permanent residents under the age of 55. Guests are allowed, of course, but no guest under the age of 55 can stay for more than 7 consecutive days, and no more than 14 days in a calendar year. We take our residence peace very seriously. And if someone tried to move in, someone younger, security would remove them, Sarah said firmly, and the homeowner would face heavy fines. We have a zero-tolerance policy. It's why people buy here. Zero tolerance, it was music to my ears. It was a legal shield. A condo clause that overruled any guilt trip my son could throw at me. I'll take it, I said. I can pay cash. Sarah blinked. Oh, well, that speeds things up significantly. By Thursday evening, the wheels were in motion. The sale of my house was processing. The purchase of the condo was being expedited. I had 3 days to pack up 40 years of life. But I had to keep up the charade. If David knew I was selling, he would try to stop me. He would claim I was incompetent. He would try to get power of attorney. I knew how he thought. He felt entitled to that house. He saw it as his inheritance delivered early. On Friday morning, David called me. "Mom," he said, his tone impatient. "Have you cleared out the office yet? Rick has a lot of equipment. I don't want him to have to wait to set up on Sunday." "I'm working on it, David," I said, infusing my voice with a fake frailty I didn't feel. "It's just a lot of heavy lifting for me." "Well, just pile it in the hall. We'll trash it when we get there. Oh, and Mom, make sure you scrub the master bathroom. Jessica is really particular about hygiene. We don't want any mold." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "Of course, David. I want everything to be perfect for you." "Good. We'll be there Sunday at 10 a.m. sharp with the U-Haul. Don't lock the door." He hung up. I put the phone down and looked around my empty kitchen. I had hired a discreet moving company, Midnight Movers, specializing in sensitive situations. They were coming Saturday night under the cover of darkness. Friday afternoon, the money from the developers hit my account. It was a staggering number. My house, paid off and well-maintained in a hot market, was worth a fortune. I transferred the funds for the condo immediately. Saturday was a blur of activity. I wasn't just packing, I was purging. I realized I didn't want to take the old furniture. I didn't want the memories of the heavy drapes or the antique sofa Jessica hated so much. I wanted fresh, I wanted new. I took my clothes, my personal documents, my jewelry, and a few sentimental items, photos of David when he was a sweet boy, before he became this entitled stranger. The rest, I left it. I left the furniture. I left the curtains. Let the developers deal with it. Or better yet, let David see it one last time before it was gone. Saturday night the movers came. They were efficient and quiet. They loaded my few boxes into a small van. I drove my car to Azure Horizons, punched in my new code at the gate, and parked in my designated spot. My new condo was empty, clean, and smelled of fresh paint. It was silent. No demands, no tape measures, no threats of taking my keys. I slept on an air mattress that night, but it felt like sleeping on a cloud because I was free. Sunday morning dawned bright and clear. The day of the big move. I woke up at 6 a.m., made coffee in my new kitchen, and sat on my balcony. I imagined the scene that was about to unfold 20 miles south. I had left a little surprise for them. Before leaving the house on Saturday night, I had met Mr. Henderson, the developer. I gave him the keys. I told him the house is yours. You can secure it tonight. He had brought a crew. They didn't just lock the doors. They boarded up the first floor windows with plywood to prevent looting before demolition. They put up a chain-link construction fence around the perimeter of the lawn. And right in the middle of the yard they planted a massive sign. Property of Henderson Development. Demolition notice. Danger. Do not enter. I checked my watch. It was 9:45 a.m. David would be pulling up right about now. I took a sip of my coffee. My phone was on the table in front of me. I waited. At 9:58 a.m. it rang. "Mom," David's voice was high-pitched with confusion and rising panic. "Mom, where are you? What is going on?" "Good morning, David," I said calmly. "I'm at home, my new home." "New home? What are you talking about? We're at the house. There's a fence. The windows are boarded up. There's a sign that says demolition." "Mom, did the city condemn the house? Why didn't you tell us?" "The house isn't condemned, David," I replied. "It's sold." "Sold?" He screamed the word. I heard Jessica shrieking in the background. "What do you mean sold? You can't sell it. It's our house. We're moving in today. We have a truck full of furniture. We gave up our apartment." "Correction," I said, "it was my house. And since you told me I was incapable of managing it, I decided to liquidate the asset. I sold it to a developer on Friday. They're tearing it down next week to build condos." You sold it." He sounded breathless, like he had been punched in the gut. But we have nowhere to go. Rick is here. Jessica's mom is here. We have the U-Haul. Mom, you have to undo it." "I can't undo it, David. The papers are signed. The money is in the bank. The property belongs to Mr. Henderson now. If you trespass, he will have you arrested. I believe there are security cameras on the fence." I heard Jessica grab the phone. Evelyn, are you insane, you selfish old witch? We have children. You're leaving your grandchildren on the street. No, Jessica, I said, my voice hardening. I'm leaving you on the street. You're the one who decided to move into my home without asking. You're the one who planned to take my car keys and turn me into a servant in my own basement. I heard you, Jessica. I heard everything. Silence on the other end. Then David came back on. Mom, please. Okay, look, we're sorry, we handled it wrong. Just tell us where you are. We'll come to you, we can stay with you until we figure this out, we're family. I looked out at the serene lake of azure horizons. I looked at the strict security gate. I don't think that's a good idea, David, I said. Mom, stop playing games. Text me the address, we're coming. We'll sleep on the floor if we have to. We have nowhere else. I took a deep breath. This was the moment. The final severing of the cord he had been using to strangle me. Fine, I said. I'll text you the address. But David, you might want to read the sign at the gate before you try to drive in. I hung up and texted him the address of Azure Horizons. Then I called the front gate security. Good morning, this is Evelyn Vance in Unit 204, I said to the guard. Good morning, Mrs. Vance, how can I help you? I'm expecting some visitors, I said. A U-Haul truck and a sedan. My son and his extended family. I need to make sure you enforce the community rules strictly. The age restrictions, ma'am, yes, I said. And the length of stay policy. And the disturbance policy, they are very excitable. Understood, ma'am, the guard said, his voice dropping an octave. We don't allow U-Hauls on the property on Sundays anyway. And if they aren't on the permanent guest list, they don't get past the bar. Would you like to add them to the list? No, I said, I certainly would not. Then they won't get in. I sat back and waited. The drive from my old house to here was about 30 minutes in a heavy truck. 30 minutes to enjoy the silence. 30 minutes to mourn the relationship I thought I had with my son, but also 30 minutes to celebrate the future I had saved for myself. Because David didn't just lose a house today. He lost the safety net he had been cutting holes in for years. And when he arrived at that gate, he was going to find out that some doors, once closed, never open again. I sat on my balcony at Azure Horizons, watching the digital clock on my phone tick forward. 10:45 a.m. They would be getting close. I could almost picture the caravan of entitlement rolling down the highway, David driving the U-Haul white-knuckled and sweating, Jessica in the passenger seat likely screaming at him, and Rick and Linda following in their sedan, the car packed to the brim with gaming computers and judgment. They were coming to my sanctuary to invade, just as they had tried to invade my colonial, but they didn't know about the condo clause. They didn't know that I had bought into a fortress specifically designed to keep their chaos out. My phone buzzed. It was a text from David. We're 5 minutes away. Tell security to open the gate. We are not in the mood for games, Mom. I didn't reply. I took a sip of my tea and watched the main entrance of the community, visible from my vantage point on the second floor. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, but one where I was safely behind the guardrail. A few minutes later I saw them. The lumbering U-Haul turned off the main road, its brakes squealing as it approached the pristine landscaped entrance of Azure Horizons. The sedan followed close behind. They pulled up to the guardhouse, the massive iron gates looming shut in front of them. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see the body language. I saw David lean out of the truck window gesturing wildly. I saw the security guard officer Miller, a man who took his job very seriously, step out of the booth. He stood with his arms crossed, shaking his head. My phone rang. I answered it on speaker, setting it on the table so I could watch the scene unfold, while listening to the soundtrack. Mom! David yelled. This guy won't let us in. He says we're not on the list. Tell him to open the gate. I can't do that, David, I said calmly. I told you this is a restricted community. I don't care what it is. We have a truck full of furniture. Open the gate. Sir, I heard Officer Miller's voice in the background, firm and authoritative. You need to lower your voice. You are blocking the entrance for residents. Turn that truck around. I'm visiting my mother. David screamed at the guard. She lives in Unit 204. Mrs. Vance has not authorized any guests, Miller replied. And even if she had, commercial vehicles and moving trucks are prohibited on Sundays. Furthermore, I see children in that sedan. No minors are permitted on the premises without prior registration. Registration? Jessica's shrill voice pierced through the phone. She must have gotten out of the car and walked up to the truck. We are moving in. My mother-in-law lives here. We are family, Ma'am Miller said. This is a 55-plus active adult community. No permanent residents under the age of 55 are permitted. Period. If you attempt to move in, Mrs. Vance will be fined and potentially evicted for lease violations. Now move your vehicles before I call the police for trespassing. Mom! David was pleading, now the anger turning into sheer panic. What did you do? Where are we supposed to go? You have plenty of room. We can hide the kids. We can sneak Rick in. David, stop, I said. You're not sneaking anyone in, that's the point. I bought this place specifically because you can't move in. I bought it because the bylaws protect me from you. Protect you? He sounded genuinely hurt, which was almost funny if it wasn't so pathetic. We're your family. Why do you need protection from us? Because you wanted to put me in the basement, I said, my voice trembling slightly with the memory of his dismissal. Because you measured my office for Rick before you even asked if I was okay with it. Because your wife planned to take my car keys and use me as unpaid labor. You didn't treat me like family, David. You treated me like a resource, an asset to be stripped. We didn't mean it like that, he stammered. We were just stressed. We needed help. And now you need help again, I said. But I'm retired, David. In every sense of the word. I am retired from my job, and I am retired from being your safety net. So what, you're just going to leave us here at the gate? Yes, I said. You're a smart man, David. You have a degree, you have a job. Figure it out. I hung up the phone. Down at the gate, I saw Officer Miller point aggressively toward the turnaround lane. David slumped over the steering wheel for a moment, defeated. Then slowly he put the truck in gear. He had to execute a painful 10-point turn in the narrow driveway, nearly clipping the perfectly manicured hedges. Jessica was waving her arms, screaming at the closed window of the guard booth, but Miller ignored her. Finally, the caravan of entitlement turned around and drove away, back onto the main road, disappearing into the traffic. I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 40 years. The next few weeks were a barrage of attempted manipulation. David sent long rambling texts about how I had ruined his life. Jessica posted vague, aggressive status updates on Facebook about toxic in-laws and narcissistic mothers. Linda, the mother-in-law, even tried to call me to shame me, telling me that good Christian women don't abandon their grandchildren. I blocked them all. I didn't abandon my grandchildren. I set up a college fund for them with a portion of the house sale money, a trust that David and Jessica couldn't touch. They would get it when they were 21, but I refused to let their parents use them as hostages to invade my peace. About a month later, I got a letter from a lawyer. David was trying to sue me. He claimed that I had promised him the house, that he had reliance damages, because he gave up his apartment based on my verbal contract. I sat in my new living room, decorated with sleek modern furniture that I picked out myself, and read the letter. Then I laughed. I walked over to my desk, pulled out a file, and drafted a response. I sent his lawyer a copy of the deed, which was solely in my name. I sent a copy of my will, which I had updated the day I sold the house, removing David as the executor. And I included a printout of the text messages where David demanded I move to the basement. I never heard from the lawyer again. It turns out my mom won't let me live in her basement. Isn't a very strong legal case. Life at Azure Horizon settled into a beautiful rhythm. I joined the bridge club. I started playing pickleball, and I'm actually quite good. I met a man named Arthur, a retired history professor who lives in Unit 305. He likes to discuss books, and he has never once asked me to do his laundry or give him money. 6 months passed before I saw David again. I was at the grocery store, the one halfway between my old neighborhood and my new community. I was pushing my cart, humming to myself, when I turned the corner of the cereal aisle and ran right into him. He looked tired. He had gained weight and his shirt was wrinkled. He was holding a box of generic cornflakes and looking miserable. Mom, he said, stopping in his tracks. I stopped too. Hello, David. He looked at me, really looked at me. I was wearing a new linen dress. My hair was cut in a stylish bob. I looked 10 years younger than I did the day he measured my office walls. You look good, he said, sounding surprised. I feel good, I replied. We're living in a townhouse rental, he blurted out as if I had asked. It's tight. Rick is sleeping on the couch. Jessica is working double shifts at the hospital to pay the rent. That sounds difficult, I said neutrally. It is, he said. He shifted his weight, looking down at his shoes. The kids miss you. I missed them too, I said. And once you and Jessica accept my boundaries, we can arrange a visit. Maybe meet at a park or a restaurant, but not at my home. He flinched at the word home. Right, your fortress. My home, I corrected him. David, I worked for 40 years, I raised you. I paid for your education, I did my job. It was time for you to do yours. He looked up at me, and I saw a flash of the little boy I used to know, the one who would scrape his knee and come running for a hug. But that boy was gone, replaced by a man who had forgotten that gratitude is a practice, not a given. I was just so used to you being there, he admitted quietly. I thought you'd always be the one to fix it. I did fix it, I said gently. I fixed me. He nodded slowly. He didn't apologize, not really. He wasn't ready for that yet, but the entitlement was gone, replaced by a weary resignation. He knew finally that the bank of Mom was closed. Well, he said, I better go, Jessica is waiting. Goodbye, David, I said. I watched him walk away, trudging toward the checkout line. I felt a pang of sadness, of course. No mother wants to see her child struggle. But then I remembered the basement. I remembered the car keys. I remembered the disrespect. And I realized that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your children is to let them grow up, even if it hurts. I finished my shopping, drove back to my gated community, and waved to Officer Miller at the gate. The iron bars slid open for me, welcoming me back to the life I had chosen, the life I had paid for, and the life I was finally truly living. I learned that boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They are gates to protect what is valuable inside. My peace was the most valuable asset I owned, and I wasn't going to let anyone, not even my son, liquidate it. So to anyone listening who feels like they are being squeezed into the basement of their own life, check the deed, check your bank account, and check your self-worth. You might find that you hold more power than you think. And if you have to sell the house to save your soul, do it. The demolition is worth the reconstruction. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you the strength to measure your own worth, and never let anyone else hold the tape measure. Until next time, keep your gates locked and your head high.